my morning dried. As she moves across the water, from inside the harbor, I forget about summer nights. Though afternoons are sunny, in this city full of money, working 6 days to get a break on Sunday. I was born to walk the docks on a Mars and Monday. Mars and Monday when the sky is gray. Mars and Monday home around the bay. Mars and Monday when the sky is gray. I give a month of my Sundays to hide the sun away. It's a perfect day with the cloud upon the bay. The blue salty water. Lay down, give up the chase. And the shore I rest my case. Most of the shores inside the harbor. For there, for that's somewhere. But I doubt I'd even think about it, even just for one day. Mars and Monday. Mars and Monday when the sky is gray. Mars and Monday home around the bay. Mars and Monday when the sky is gray. I'd give a month of some Sundays to hide the sun away. Mars and Monday when the sky is gray. Mars and Monday home around the bay. Mars and Monday when the sky is gray. I'd give a month of Sundays to hide the sun away. Hide the sun away. Hide the sun away. Oh, hide the sun away. Oh, good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? Thank you for joining us on Sunday Funday, our little Sunday night chill stream here on the Midwest Miniature Guy Twitch channel. Hope you all are having a wonderful evening, and welcome spring with another freak snowstorm here in the upper Midwest of the United States, where we got another 3 to 5 inches today after having 90 degrees last week for most of the week. Yeah. We had green grass, folks. It was nice. It was sunny. I had the windows open. We had the ceiling fans on. A couple nights we had to turn our air conditioner on just so that we could, cool down. Yeah, Nat 20 Academy, hello. Thanks for popping in. First time chatter. Yeah, freezing rain, 2 inches of snow. It can stop any day now. You are absolutely correct. Any day now. Yeah. So my band had a gig last night, and thankfully we got done before the freezing rain and snow started up. We're here in central Minnesota, so we only got the 2.8 inches of snow. Hey, DM Thaco, okay, from over on FanCon. Nice. So you're up in the the Iron Range there, right? Virginia, Minnesota. Actually, FanCon is up in Virginia, Minnesota. I know what. Yeah, you're in Grand Rapids, but okay, about an hour south of there. Holy cow! So, yeah. Hey, thanks for popping in. First time, really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna get started here. I'm finishing up the Hulkbuster tonight, and then we'll get on to some other stuff as well. So let's go ahead and get started here. Nat 20, this is actually a very simple stream. Um, I don't have any flashy gets or anything like that. It's just painting. Sometimes I'll play some music, at the beginning of the show. Other than that, I'm just hanging out and painting and chatting and stuff like that. So you did tell me that you were going to swing by. So hopefully this will encourage you to get in there and get some painting done. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're great at it or not. It doesn't matter. I'm just here to give you some techniques and chat about painting and gaming in general, and just kind of have fun and hang out. So, but yeah, so this is what this is what I've been working on for the past couple of streams. Is the Hulkbuster from Marvel Crisis Protocol. I went full non-metallic metal on the gold parts, and I guess the red parts too, just not all the way up to white. But yeah, that's what we've been working on. We left the inside kind of mechanisms just regular silver because I wasn't gonna do non-metallic metal on that. But then we also got like the arc reactors, and now we've been working on the thrusters, or not the thrust flames, and then the kind of the OSL for where it's coming out of down here. So I'm going to keep working on that. Nat 20 says, I'm trying to get the stuff for a wet palette. I just got my sable brushes. They look much like yours. Yeah, these are pretty nice. They all came in a 10-pack. I think it was like 10 for $10. My mother-in-law got me these for Christmas. She got me a bunch of these packs, which I asked for, which is great. But yeah, they work really well. These are from AX, AIEX. Got them off of Amazon. My friend Amber gave me this wet palette, but normally I use just a regular well palette, or I've got some palette paper too that I can use. Wet palettes have been fun. It's been interesting to use and kind of go, oh, hey, this is kind of nice. My paint's staying wet, and I can work on it, other stuff, and then kind of come back, if I need to tidy up some bits and go, oh, I don't have to get any more paint. I still got a nice, area here. But we're going to go ahead. This is kind of this is a sample color, kind of a blue-green color here. I'm really trying to thin this down. So I'm even adding a little bit more water to the paint. So Nat 20, if you have any questions while I'm working on this, please feel free to ask, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And I'm going to try and keep everything in the camera here too. So, oh yeah, it's getting wet, almost like a glaze. So I've thinned that way down, so it's very translucent. So when you go across your wet palette, you should be able to almost see through it, which is pretty close here. So we're basically just glazing this paint on. So we're finding the areas, kind of like the shadow areas. Like up here is going to be white, and through here we're putting that glaze of this on here just a little bit. We're also trying to get it down here to kind of give it that greenish yellow color. if you can see, I'm actually pulling it up towards the thrusters, so this color kind of stains in through here. So now you can definitely see some of that blue-green coming through here. I'm just going to add a little bit more. A little bit more. Oh, and I also hum and sing when I'm painting, especially when I'm streaming. Not so much if I'm by myself, but just kind of hum to myself a little bit. I think everybody does that. There, we've glazed that. And now we can... And it dries pretty quick since it's just nothing but water. Mostly water anyway. Let's see if there's any white paint left here. Hey, there is. Woohoo! I'm just going to take a little bit of this white, move it right up to there. Again, very thin down. We want to get it on the top of the thrusters here. So Nat 20, do you have a pretty good group up there for games? I think the furthest north I've been has been Ely? I mean, we go to Duluth and Two Harbors and stuff all the time, but we've been to that one mine up there, and I can't remember the name of it right offhand. Alright, I think that's enough white. Let's see. Nat 20 says, I'm more just trying to learn by watching for the moment. I've got a little of the basics down. I was shown a bit about dry brushing and washes. I'm trying to get an understanding of glazes and layering. Well, you've come to the right place, because I do all those, so... And then he says, our LGS runs a few TTRPGs, D&D, and Star Wars mostly. One of the shop owners is a decent mini painter as well. Nice. So yeah, this is kind of our... I can't really say a glaze of white. We're just really thinning it down. So that a little bit... I guess it's a glaze. We're just trying to thin it down so that a little bit of that green blue shows through, but then it's opaque enough up here. I consider myself pretty blessed. I've got a dedicated Thursday night game group that's been meeting now for like 25 years. My wife actually got me into it when I first moved over here, so 'cause she was a part of it. So they've all become my friends, and two of them have become my bandmates. So pretty blessed with that. And then of course we've got several game stores down here that keep me supplied in figures and paints and such. There we go. That's better. You've got a 7-year game that I've been running for in a homebrew setting for 5e. You're pretty super lucky as well. Yeah, that's nice. 7-year campaign. Yeah, the longest I ran was 12 years, but it was like I tried to do once a month, and then it kind of came down to quarterly, and then it kind of came down to like when we had time to host one. But yeah, 12 years spanning decades in game. So that was fun. That was a second ed game that I ran. Oh, and I'm even a bigger nerd because I went out and bought Voltron Defender of the Universe. This is the complete original series, which has Lion Force and Vehicle Force. My wife's like, "Hey, honey, take a look at this." We're at Walmart. Oh, look at that! I'm like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me!" So, yoink. Yeah, I wanted to get the die-cast ones, but they were too expensive. My grandma and my aunt Dorothy actually got me the big, like, 1.5 foot tall plastic one that you could fit the pilots inside of it. Loved it. It was one of my favorite toys next to all my G.I. Joe and Star Wars. Those are my three big. I had some like vehicles and figures from Mask. I don't know if you remember that. Mask was fun. I got my yellow right here. And I had the rubbery Vehicle Force ones as well. It was like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was like a 12 or 14 piece craziness. I enjoyed Darkwing Duck. I didn't follow it that much, but I enjoyed Darkwing Duck, and I was a huge Gargoyle fan. So I'm really happy that Disney Plus has Gargoyles on. I actually need to go back and keep watching that because that was one of my favorite cartoons. And I hear that they're supposed to be bringing it back. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool if you could continue the story. That'd be fantastic. Alright, so now we're using some Flash Gets Yellow. And we want to get further down here. I might have to use a little bit, yeah, I'm going to have to use a stronger yellow. This is pretty thin. That's a very, very thin yellow, so let's grab. Yeah, it's been around. That rumor's been around for a while. Yeah, I thought they had announced it like a year or so ago. I literally just grab what paint I need. I've got Citadel, Reaper, Army Painter, AK Interactive, Vallejo, Pro Acryl. I've tried the Two Thin Coats by Duncan Rhodes. Good stuff. I really like that. I like their washes a lot, actually. So I'm hoping that one of our local game stores down here will start carrying it, because that would be super cool. Haven't heard about Duncan Rhodes? Yeah, Duncan Rhodes is a miniature painter who used to work exclusively for Games Workshop. And he wanted to do his own YouTube channel, and they wouldn't let him, so he left. And he liked using other paints too, and paint brushes. He wasn't always, up for using everything strictly Games Workshop. So he left Games Workshop, started his own deal, and then started his own paint line. He did a massive, successful Kickstarter for the Two Thin Coats brand, and it has really taken off for him. And I like him a lot. My friend Amber got me into him. Well, yes, but they also have their own Warhammer TV on Twitch and YouTube channel, and so they wanted him to just strictly do that. Which, that's their prerogative. You know, that's their brand. And but they wouldn't let him. So he went out on his own, and as one YouTuber that um, did a, oh, what do you call it? What's the word I'm thinking of? Not a reaction, but he did a review. That's what I'm trying to think. Jeez, my brain is just toast. He did a review of the paints, and he said that they are coming at Citadel hard. They remind him a lot of the old Citadel paints. Which, if you like that stuff, great. There was quite a few paints that I really enjoyed from this old Citadel line. But I really like some of their washes. So I say good for him. Challenge him. Challenge the heck out of him. Alright, so that worked. That was a golden yellow, so that happened to be just opaque enough to cover up some of those areas that I wanted covered up. And I kind of gotta let that dry. This is a commission. Yep, this is going to be going to Patrick Brindelson, the one of the managers of Source Comics and Games. I've been friends with him for years. And he's like, I finally have some pieces I want you to paint. So I did Thanos' crew. I did the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants for him. I've still got Blob, Mr. Sinister, and Pyro to finish. They're close, but they're not done yet. Alright, grab some Corvus Black here. And we're just going to go over. Nightcrawler has not been released yet. You might be able to find a proxy one online. Maybe find somebody that will print them for you if you don't have a 3D printer. But currently, Nightcrawler has not been released yet for the Crisis Protocol line of figures. Which is weird because he's one of my favorites too, and I would love to have him and Wolverine just as display pieces for myself. I think I'm going to need to get in here. I know it's kind of hard to see. I need to get in this section right here and bring that gray up a little bit more. Get it kind of down into the yellow. There we go. And I'll take a little bit of this gray. We'll mix it into our Corvus Black. Corvus Black is kind of just a darker gray color anyway, so this will work pretty darn well. Water it down just a little bit more. Alright. That's almost too bright. So we'll put a little extra Corvus black in. Alright, that should be good. Yeah, that's better. Not as bright. We're just kind of going over the top. We're not dry brushing, but we're just going over the top areas here to give it some contrast from the Corvus black. Okay, so we got that lighter gray on there. I thought I might need Dark Reaper, but I'm not going to, so that's perfectly fine. Now, just for the fun of it, we're going to grab some contrast paint. This is and in yellow. And we're just going to run it in through here. Like so. Whoop, get it on the camera, idiot. There we go. Right in through here, just like this. Kind of into the deepest recesses. There we go. Now you can see a little, it's kind of like a yellow-orange down in there. Wrong drawer. just wanted to turn my sound off on my phone. Also, hydrate. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Alright, so I'm going to grab some aged pewter here. This is what we're going to use for our manhole covers. Pyro doesn't have one. Yay! And then for whatever the heck Mr. Sinister's walking out of here. We're just going to put a little bit right there. Because then we're also going to grab this. So here's our manhole cover. We're just going to cover this with the... so we're going to cover the manhole cover with our aged pewter. Like so. Put that right there. And then here's the here's blob that we got finished up. I just need to do the manhole cover and then do the border. Like that. Now we just gotta let it dry. And then whatever the heck Mr. Sinister is stepping out of here, whatever machine that he has been using, we're just gonna paint this right on here. And then we gotta do some creepy glowy effects for this green. Mr. Sinister, by the way, was a pain in the butt to paint because of all these stupid little strands and the fact that he was already attached to the model, so I couldn't get back there and get all of them. Which me as a perfectionist and a completist drives my poor little mind to insanity even more. Yeah, I literally did this first because I wanted to get this done before I started on any of the other parts because I knew that I was going to be just slopping paint all over the place. So that's one thing that you can do is like if you have something with a long coat or cloak that's covering the back or kind of covering any other parts of your figure, paint that first and then work from the inside out. Ginormous pain in the Batuskis. I also have to thank Nat20 for being our 260th follower. So much appreciated there. Thank you so much. We broke the 250s. We're now into the 260s, so much appreciated there. Oh, that stinks. Yeah, I like, anything above 1 is, I was pretty happy with. What did you stream, sir? Were you streaming games or? I just want to get a nice coat on here. You stream D&D 3 days a week. Wow, cool. Yeah, I have a feeling that I don't want to put this out into the world, but I have a feeling that at some point in time in the next couple of years, I'm going to have to get a new computer and actually get like not just a laptop, but an actual I hate to say gamer PC, but something along those lines, possibly with 2 screens. So I can have some stuff up on one screen, some stuff up on another. There we go. He says, at one point in time I had 6 concurrent games going. It was a lot to handle. Yeah, I bet. Holy cow. I only have 2 games going right now. I have our Thursday night game. And that one there I'm not running. I'm just playing in, thankfully. That's my my friend Greg's game. And he's running Mutants and Masterminds right now. And then I'm running a once a month or once every other month 5th Ed game, which takes place 10 years after the Lost Minds of Fandelver. Actually, now it's 12 years. So that's been fun. Oh, hey, you know what I can do? I can go. You're at the Fiat Forever DM. I don't mind doing that. I guess I could have plugged it in that way, but that's fine. But I like to play too, so. And our Thursday night group has just been. We switch off. Just about everybody except for my wife DMs that night. Or DMs that group, I should say. And my wife's a great DM. She just doesn't want to run stuff for those guys. She'll run it for like beginners and whatnot, but she doesn't like running it for the more seasoned veterans, I guess. Alright, so we've got that metallic paint on. We gotta let that one dry. And this should be dry. Yep. So now we're going to take a little bit of Nuln oil here. Nice wash from Citadel. And we're just going to place this right over the top of our metal, just like so. I don't have to do it on the metal here because I've already put a brown wash over that. And yeah, seasoned folks definitely, especially when you get like the rules lawyer. I put a little bit back in here. Nuln oil is a great wash. It works very well for toning stuff down, getting into the cracks and crevices of places, and just creating some nice depth. I'm just going to add a little bit in to here. But yeah, it is a great wash. The other one too is Agrax Earthshade and Reekland Flesh Shade. Those are my three washes that I tend to use quite a bit. The other one that I use, they're not, well, they're kind of washes, but are the Army Painter Tones. I really like those quite a bit. There. I don't want to hit that, so that's... yeah, I think we're good. Alright, we'll set him off to the side for a second there. Now we'll do the same thing over here. Oh, super suckers. Okay. Forgot there was another grate. Right behind his foot. We'll just run some of this. Right over the top of these. Grates here. Let that dry. Well, and just like paint, you can also mix your washes. So if you want to mix a little bit of Nuln oil into your Agrax Earthshade just to make it a little darker, you can do that as well. And the same with Reekland Flesh Shade, you can mix that into your Earthshade. You can mix a little green into it, whatever. It works. Yeah, I gotta let that dry. It's pretty wet still. Just so it comes out just a little bit darker. Getting that wash in there. And we're going to do the same thing here for Mr. Sinister. We're even going to go across the areas that we're going to highlight green because that just gives it a little bit more depth. Not the these whole things, but down here. Yep, you can certainly water down the color that you want to create a wash. That's not a problem. I mean, that's pretty much what a wash is anyway. It's just watered down paint. And you can use water, you can use, what am I trying to think of? A medium, like a blending medium, or a combination of the two is good too. You can use a blending medium along with, you know, like water and then your paint. So it's like I wouldn't know the ratio exactly, but gives it a good blend. I think what I want to do I want to do that? Yeah, because it's pretty. I'm going to add just a little bit of a wash right back in here, just to blend those colors in a little bit. There. I think I'm just going to wash all the little black areas here. I think that gray's a little bit too much. Just tone it down a bit. Even up here in his hair. There. That's better. Makes him look a little bit more sinister anyway. Alright, I'm going to grab a little bit of Naga green. This is Naga, Naga green from Reaper. Pulling out the puns, yep. Yep, exactly. Exactly. I'm a dad too, so watch out for the dad jokes. Got those incoming at some point in time too. think I want a little bit bigger brush here. Yeah, puns, dad jokes, and I'm also a drummer, so I can actually do my own brunch. You know, it's works out really well. There you go. Dad and stepdad. Try and get these pieces to glow, hopefully. We shall see. Ooh, do I have a favorite thing to paint? That's a great question. Um, I enjoy painting people more than vehicles and such. I did have a ton of fun painting up some Star Wars vehicles. That was fun. But yeah, definitely more of a character-driven arc, I guess. I like painting up people and monsters and stuff like that. Okay, so that's a pretty nice green, but we're going to add some yellow into that. Yeah, I painted up some ships for a client of mine. And while it was fun, it was interesting, I wouldn't want to do it again. Just a little too blah. You know, oh, these ships are gray. These ships are purple with like a green stripe. Great. Um, I really like painting up people's characters because you kind of get to know them and what they like to play and such. Yep, I painted the Slotties. Slotties are great. Lots of fun with those. I haven't painted up the Displacer Beast yet, but I'm sure at some point in time I will. I have painted up a giant Black Panther. That was fun. That was not Guinevere or Guinevere. So yeah, I I feel like I painted just about everything. I am getting something from Portugal that I'm looking forward to painting up. And I'm not going to say who it's for or what it is yet, but watch for some announcements coming up on the social media pages, um, Discord and stuff like that. Because I'm highly anticipating that figure arriving. Oh, you did a guided paint of a black dragon and would like to do it solo. Yeah, go for it. There's nothing stopping you. To be honest, just grab it and go. I mean, I started painting back when YouTube was in its infancy, and I was learning a lot of stuff through written tutorials, not even being able to see what the painters were doing. And now, I've got painters on Twitch and they're on YouTube and they're putting out videos, you know, every other day, stuff like that. So we have become spoiled. And I'm not saying that you gotta do it the same way I did. Absolutely not. I mean, everybody's got their, we've got the technology to be able to teach people how to do this hobby and to do it well and to enjoy it at the same time. You don't have a dragon to paint. I am a bit on the broke side, so I'm not buying any minis at them. Yeah, I hear you. I have been there. I can commiserate with the... especially when my wife would go, alright, you can choose. Which figure do you absolutely have to have right now? I'm getting this one. Okay, because you can only get the one right now. Or you can wait and ask for it for Christmas. Oh, jeez. That's 8 months away. I got a game coming up. Nat Swanee says, I've probably watched 60 plus hours of YouTube videos on painting, and I am lucky to be part of the Discord with some great painters who are willing to help me learn. Absolutely. I think that's the main thing is finding painters that don't feel like we aren't gatekeeping the hobby from people. We want others to jump in, because without new painters, who's going to keep going on this? It's like with any other hobby or even profession. You know, who's going to be our next great farmer? Somebody that's going to go out there and say, well, I'll take over this farm because people need to eat. I think that families that have had a farm for 200 some odd years or 180 years or whatever, need to be recognized and commended for the dedication to do such, because it is back-breaking work. Yeah, you run a Discord teaching people how to play and or run TTRPGs. You want to help foster the next generation of nerds. Yeah. Yep, that's it right there. That's the drive. Yeah, I would have been thrilled if my daughter would have wanted to paint or play the drums like I do. And she knows how to play the drums. She knows the backbeat. She can do it. It's been years since she's played, but she can do it. And she's painted like a couple of miniatures when she was a kid. But her strengths lie in makeup and hair. That's why she's a cosmetologist now. So she has pursued that dream. And then next year she gets married. So another dream accomplished. She told her boyfriend a couple of years ago, she says, here's what I want. In this order, I want a house, I want a dog, and I want an engagement ring. They got the house in 2021. They got the dog in 2021. And they got engaged last November. So, pretty happy for them. Thank you. Your daughter went from playing D&D to painting minis and now learning all about reptile breeding. Nice. How hard is it to breed reptiles in Minnesota? That must be quite... That's got to be a trick. Because it's just so cold here. The inside breeding cages or aquariums for the Herpetological Society. Alright, so mixing more yellow into our green, because I really want this to glow funky. Especially these shards of glass stuff down here. I want the... Yeah, just like that. Just like that. There we go. Yeah, I talk about my daughter quite a bit because I'm super proud of her. She's a good kid. I don't know where she got her outgoingness, because it certainly wasn't for me. Or her mom. We're just like, introverts of the world, unite. Which is weird since I play in a band. I enjoy being on stage and being extroverted that way, but not... You know, I don't mind talking with fans that want to come up and chat and... You know, anything like that, but I don't really go out of my way to do so. It says, depends on the reptile, you can create a breeding room fairly easily. Heat lamps, proper bedding, and vegetation. It's all about creating a comfortable habitat. Cool. That's neat. So you learn something new every day. You ran light sound for bar bands. We all are a different breed, but it's amazing how many of them are introverted the moment they get off stage. Yeah, musicians, we love the spotlight. We love to boogie, but we there's my age for you. Um, but yeah, once we're done performing, we just kind of want to, if somebody comes up, oh hey, you guys were really great. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, thanks. I'm just trying to tear down and go home and not see anybody for the next 24 to 48 hours. Unless you're our guitar player who thrives on being the center of attention. You thought it was the bassist that was the spotlight hog? Normally it's like the lead singer or the keyboard player. Give me the spotlight. Where's my solo? I'm the lead singer. Nothing else matters. Just my voice. It's funny because our bass player, acoustic guitar player, and lead guitar player all switch off instruments depending on the song. So, and they all sing lead vocals depending on the song. So they're all, little wannabe narcissists. I'm in a very niche band, though I play in a Irish pub rock band called the Serfs, Serfs, and so we play covers from like Dropkick Murphys, Flogging Molly, the Pogues, Waterboys. We'll throw some '80s stuff in just for fun, but like B-side single '80s numbers, ones that I never heard of. Yeah, if you're ever down in the cities, we don't tend to get up that far. But yeah, if you're ever down in the cities, and we got a show, come see us. You can find us. Um, our social medias right now are just Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, the Surfs MN on Instagram, and then www.facebook. The is capitalized, and then the Surfs is all capitalized except for the last S. Here, I'll put it in the chat here. If I can type. It's been a couple days. There you go. And I'm gonna do his eyes. Oh yeah, same here. My mom was a biker hippie chick who loved bubblegum pop. So not only did I grow up with like Iron Butterfly, but also the Monkees, the Beatles, um, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, just a ton of stuff. Jimi Hendrix, of course. But my stepdad was huge into country, so his was Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, stuff like that. And I forgot to paint his backpack. But then my aunts, one of my aunts, my aunt, great aunt Dorothy, she was a guitar player and organ and piano player for the big bands during the Depression. So she would go out and play for a night and bring back like, $5 or something like that, but that would feed her family for 2 weeks. There you go. Yep, gotta love those baby boomers, man. They give us all kinds of crazy stuff. So if your mom was from California and your dad grew up out here, how did they meet? Did they ever tell you? Because that sounds like a story right there. Dad was in the Navy, gotcha. Enough said. So did he get out before you came along, or were you a Navy kid and traveled all over the place? I did a tour off the coast of Nam and came back about 4 years later. Came my brother and me. Wow. Well, I'm glad that he came back. I had a few relatives that were in Vietnam as well. They wouldn't talk about it too much. I had a couple of relatives that were in World War II as well, and they wouldn't talk about that a whole lot either. It was more like, yep, that happened. That's all I'm going to say about it. Like, okay. So we grabbed a little bit of solid black here. We're going to do the borders now. Oh, that's cool. In charge of all the new technology, Used in aiming and targeting for the shipborne artillery. That's neat. Well, at least he wasn't in the jungles. That's good. Alright, well, there's our pyro. He is done finally. Lady, you getting into computer programming? Yeah, there you go. I never knew my biological dad, but my stepdad was in the Coast Guard. He was one guy away from being drafted into the Army during Vietnam. The guy in front of him got called in. They said, alright, we're good, and he got to go home. So instead of enlisting in the Army, he enlisted in the Coast Guard and spent several years there. And then he came back home to Eastern Washington State. And became a mechanic and farmhand for a wheat farm. And then that got shut down in the late 80s when the government came in and said, we're putting all this land to foul and giving you, and subsidizing you to do so. Not him per se, because he was working for the farmer. And so he packed us all up and we moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming for a while. And he went to become an airplane mechanic. He did that for several years, then he became a truck driver. And now he's retired. And he helps out every once in a while. Still went back to Eastern Washington, and still lives there. And, yeah. Every once in a while he'll go and drive truck during harvest season, or hope the other mechanics fix what's broken. He's still very mechanically inclined, even at 70 years old. How'd I get stuck up here in the Great White North? So right around, what was it, 96 into 1997, my one and only year of college, because then I realized I couldn't afford it. My roommate was like, "Hey, come up to the computer lab with me, and we're gonna go chat with some friends of mine." I was like, "What do you mean chat with friends of yours? All our friends are in school here." He's like, "No, I'm talking about, there's a chat room." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Do I gotta use my real name?" He's like, No, we all go by, aliases and monikers and whatnot. I said, alright, fine. And that's when I started talking with the woman that would become my wife. And in 99, I talked with her over the phone for like 8 hours. And the plan was she was actually going to move out to Seattle because I was in a rather successful band out there. Not like grunge or anything like that, but we were pretty successful out that way. And was working at a musical instrument shop. Had my own apartment. Was doing pretty well. And I flew out here, we got engaged, and when I got back, they had lost my job, my band was breaking up, and my roommates were moving out on me. And I was like, oh, well, that's 3 strikes. So I called her up and I told her what was going on. And I said, if I don't find anything in the next, month, I may have to move out here. And I didn't. I didn't find anything. It was like, it was crazy. There was just nothing out in the Seattle area. So I moved out here in March of '99 and been here ever since. And I try to go back as much as I can, but there are only a handful of reasons for me to go back right now. Most everything that I know and love is out here. I'm just doing the base here. I'm just cleaning up the border. You were born here, been to 6 different states, lived in 3, and somehow keep finding your way back here. Yeah, I think the middle of the country, for some crazy reason, except for maybe the capital area, the actual Twin Cities area, tend to be pretty common sense folks. Most of the families have either grown up on farms or have had family members do so, and they just are kind of no nonsense people. I was born in Medford, Oregon. I was raised in most of Washington. I live just south of, well, I can't say just south, 2 hours south of Spokane, until I was 14. And then I lived in Everett in the Seattle area until I was 24? Yeah, 23, 24, something like that. 24, because I was 24, my wife was 23 when we got married. So, well, there's Mr. Sinister. He's all done. Woohoo. You grew up near the cities and have slowly moved further north and north. Yeah. That's kind of like my daughter right now. Like she, born and raised here in Coon Rapids, and now she's like, I don't want to live anywhere near the cities. The further I can get away from the craziness, the better. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of with you, kiddo. Alright, finish up the Hulkbuster. You grew up in Fridley? Nice, I used to work in Fridley. A couple of places I worked for, oh geez, it was a dental lab right off of Osborne Road and 65. And then I used to work for the Columbia Park Medical Group until they got bought out by Fairview. Yeah, I've lived in Oregon, Washington, Wyoming, and now Minnesota. But I've been to, well, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and South Dakota. Furthest east I've been has been Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Because my wife and I like to go to GaryCon. If you've never been to GaryCon, you should do it at least once. It's a ton of fun. It's a celebration of Gary Gygax's life put on by his family. So you get to meet them, along with a bunch of people from the old TSR days, along with a bunch of artists like Larry Elmore, Jeff Easley, Errol Otis, folks like that. And the writers. A lot of writers for TSR are there. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, GaryCon's a ton of fun. If you get a chance to go, definitely go. At least once. Alright. Washington on either side of the state is beautiful. I like Central Washington, the Leavenworth, Washington area, because it's just right at the base of the Cascade Mountains. It's really pretty. I like Western Washington too. Just because you've got the ocean and then you've got the Olympic Mountains on the other side on the peninsula. It's just gorgeous. Been to Oregon several times. The coast area is great. I haven't been to Eastern Oregon, so I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I had friends that lived down around Portland and Vancouver, Washington. All right. Well, there's the Hulkbuster, finally completed. After 4 or 5 streams. We can take some photos of that and post it. We also finished up Mr. Sinister. Got him done. And then we got the Blob. And we got Pyro. All finished up, ready for some photos. I'm just going to set these off to the side. All right, so oh, I'm glad you watched the other VODs. That's cool. Thank you. Well, shoot, while we're here, let's work on some stuff that's sitting here on the desk. We've got a baby dragon here. We've got I've got an adorable little baby displacer beast that's 3D printed that my wife got me. It's chewing on its own tentacle. I think it's just adorable. Let's see. Oh, we could work on our skeleton pirate. Yeah, let's work on him. Yeah, let's work on the skeleton pirate. Yeah, the displacer beast is super cute. Got it for free, and Kim got one, and I got one. Kim's my wife, by the way. Oh, this guy? Yeah, definite Scooby-Doo villain for sure. Then she also found a really cool-looking bard that gives me some very Stevie Ray Vaughan vibes. He's got a cool top hat on, and a really neat coat. So I actually painted him like he's a little bit more grimy than a regular, brightly colored bard. And he's sitting on some of those steamer chests. It's really neat. Do I have... Well, let's see. I've got gray, so I can do highlights on the boots and belts and stuff. Do I have any blue? Is my blue still out? I got a little bit of blue. Do I have any of this over here? Yes. Haha, I do. Okay, so I'm going to mix some blues up here. Yeah, I do. That's a great question. Nat20 asked, do I do any custom work on minis like bases or reattaching parts? Yes. I've customized figures. I've chopped figures apart and put new weapons on and put them on bases and things like that. Takes a bit. And I charge by the hour too if anybody's interested in any commission work. It's $20 per hour with a 2-hour minimum. And then however many more hours after that you want me to put in is the price. So most folks go with the 2-hour minimum. That gives you a pretty nice tabletop standard figure. Or for some folks, they high tabletop. Because 2 hours is still quite a bit. Oh yeah, I've seen some folks do some fantastic green stuff modding on figures. I'm not a great sculptor when it comes to stuff like that. I can do some gap filling and whatnot, but I'm not a great sculptor, so I don't get too heavily involved in a lot of the modding stuff. I can do some cool bases with green stuff and cork and sand and whatnot, but yeah, I'm not a wonderful sculptor when it comes to recreating or creating, original pieces. But yeah, there's some folks out there that do some fantastic work. Well, and you also gotta get the right styrofoam too, there, Nat. It's get the pink stuff rather than the blue or the white. The white stuff just tends to crumble all over. So if you get the pink styrofoam, almost like it's the what am I trying to think of? I've got some over here. Um, it's kind of like the insulation, the pink insulation styrofoam, but without the oh shoot. It's in the craft stores. That's the stuff you want to get. So I'm just hitting some smaller areas here with a little bit lighter blue. Tails of the coat. Trying to hit some of the higher edges on the wrinkles here of the jacket. I'm going to take a little bit of this green, blue, or blue-green we've got here. I'm just going to mix this into my blue that I've got over here. It's almost like a seafoam green. Hey, Nat 20, have a great night. Have a good dinner. Sleep well when you get there. I will be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So if you want to join me then, happy to have you. Hope you learned something. And if, like I said, if you ever have any other questions, please feel free to message me or pop the questions in here in the chat, and I will get to them for sure. There. That coat's getting to be nice and blue. Just trying to get all the little wrinkles in the boots and cuffs of the coat here. Get his hat here. I'll grab a little bit of this off-white here. A little bit of our blue. Mix that into our gray. I think I'm going to do the borders of his hat and cuffs the same color. Thought about doing it in non-metallic brass, but yeah, I've done enough non-metallic stuff now to last me for a bit. We're going to use the same green blue for the eyes inside the mouth. And we're just going to use this to highlight the cuffs. Alright folks, we got a little bit more done on our skeleton captain here. And we got a lot more done. In fact, we finished up our Marvel Crisis Protocol commission, so I can send those photos off to Patrick. So, yeah. It's almost 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night. Thank you all for watching, Nat20 Academy. Thank you for following and for watching tonight. Hope to catch you back soon. And as always, folks, have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8. Happy painting. Bye.